You are a super fan. If you catch my drift from here to Japan.
Nice.
I was just checking it this morning. I wrote it last night and I was like, this is shit.
Why? It sounded good. To Japan. I like that. Okay.
I find I'm always cooking. I'm always eating on these.
So maybe I can start while you're eating. Hello and welcome to Bleed Extra with me, Ryan Whyte. I'm a freelance graphic designer and I'm joined by Jacque Moodley. He's an art director.
And you can watch me eat if that's something you're into.
And how are you doing, Jacque? You know, we've had like a couple of emails flooding in and people have been saying like, I never ask you how you are. We don't have that nice chit chat in the beginning. I'm like, how are you this fine Friday morning? It's sunny and it's beautiful out there. You know?
Really?
Yeah. No, people.
When you see emails flooding in, like, who emailed us and said that? Nobody cares about me, bro.
Yeah.
Right?
I care about how you're doing. How are you doing?
Yeah. You know.
Okay, now that's out of the way. They've also been,
how are you doing?
oh yeah. Thanks for asking how I'm doing, bro. I'm doing terribly. I just wanted to put that straight up.
Now that's where.
Okay. So they've also been saying, because last week we spoke about art versus sport. And people have been saying, and when I say people have been saying, no one's been saying this, but there are degrees between art and sport. So like, you know, so there are artistic expressions, or however you want to say that are a little bit more accessible, you know, so like you can go watch, I don't know, a game of darts at a pub, or you can go and watch I don't know, like the Formula One Grand Prix in Monaco. So, you know, there are degrees of accessibility and whatever. And it's the same with art, where it's you can go to a flea market and they'll sell art there. They'll have like a little art section, you know, pottery and crafts and things. And then you can go and watch the ballet, you know, so that's also an expression of art that's very inaccessible. So I understand that, but I think what's just to sum up what we spoke about last week, you can get, say for instance, like a sport like curling at the Olympics. If you win a gold medal for curling at the Olympics, it's still more recognizable and still greeted with a higher sense of regard than if you say, hey, I won a Grand Prix Gold Lurie, you know. I think that's the point I was trying to make. And that's just to sum up what we spoke about last week. Thoughts?
Yeah, nobody's going to endorse you or give you an endorsement deal with Nike if you want to lure. They don't care. We're so fucking negative. I always try to be like the positive one, but today's not the fucking day. Hey? Today's not the day for me to be the positive component of this podcast or whatever.
Okay.
I'm not going to do it, man.
Okay.
I agree with you completely.
Okay. Yeah, look, I mean, I just wanted to sum it up because I understand there are degrees. But yeah, if anyone differs in opinion, they want to chime in with anything, feel free to email us at bleedadvertising@gmail.com. I think the reason why, yeah, I think the reason why we haven't been getting emails because no one uses email anymore. Everyone slides into Instagram DMs, TikTok DMs.
We should just go to the DMs and see what people have been saying and then go and respond to those directly.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I think we'll do that next week. Okay, so if we're not going to chat about sport and art, we can close that topic.
We can't chat about sport. Here's an example. So Cole, my son, whom you know, is playing a soccer game today. And like everybody wants to go see it. But I remember being a kid at school and nobody came to watch like my art class. Nobody cares about like kids drawing for 3 hours at like a still life. Do you know what I mean? It's also entertainment, man.
Yeah, I suppose it's fast action. Okay. We can close that up for now. So today I wanted to talk about briefs. How do you feel about that?
I'm over boxes, man, myself.
Okay, so we're not talking about men's briefs that you wear under your trousers or your pants.
You could wear
Um,
briefs under your trousers, doesn't matter.
yeah, I'm talking about job bags, briefs, the beginning of a basically a campaign or a job or that kind of thing. I know we've done Journey of a Job Bag. Shout out to that episode if you want to go and watch it or listen to it. But what I wanted to discuss about briefs is I had this experience recently where, without sounding too Forrest Gump, but a brief is like a bad 90s movie, can be sometimes. And when I say that, it's kind of like when you get a brief, when you've sat in a briefing, you've chatted to like an account manager or a strat planner, and you can get a sense where this movie is going, and you know how it's going to play out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, like for instance, a bad '90s horror movie. You know, this guy's going to die. This but they're going to split up at this point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this guy's going to get captured and tortured for like 5 hours. And then right at the end, he's going to die. And then that's when they find the serial killer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes when you get a job bag on your desk, you know there's going to be tears. They're going to split up at this point. Client's going to come back.
Yeah. I mean, like all the they're like snowflakes. No brief is identical,
Yeah.
but there are some similarities. And when you get, I think it also depends, man. Like I think working in social media, when I was like doing predominantly social media, those briefs were honestly so yeah identical. It was always like May and June are coming up. Yeah, like the special days in May. Yeah, the special days in June. Let's do something for Father's Day. Let's do something for Mother's Day. Blah 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 blah. And that would be for one brand. Then you get the exact same brief for another brand. Hey, May and June is coming up. Let's figure out our content calendar. We need to do something for Mother's Day. We need to do something for Father's Day. Can we talk about the product intrinsics? Can we do this? Blah 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 blah. So like at some point, those briefs become so identical. I think with above the line, to a certain degree, they're the same. It's just the strat changes a little bit.
Hmm.
And it's either like we want to talk to people who are self-motivated and inspired and they want the best for themselves, or we want to talk to people who are self-actualizing or whatever, or actualizing.
I love
We want
that.
to talk to people who are like driven and they want the best for themselves, and they young and entrepreneurial spirit. Or we want to talk to people who are like motivated, strong-willed, want the best for themselves. It's kind of there's differences.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think what I'm driving at is I think it's usually the briefs that come in for big campaign work. So it's either
Yeah.
like launch of a new campaign or a new quarterly work. Um, you can just kind of pick out these characters. So whether it's a stressed out account manager, and I think what I'm getting at is, so with this job that I worked on recently, I could see where it was going, and it actually made me feel a lot more calm because I knew how this movie was going to play out, and I made sure that every single like pressure point was covered before it got there. And the movie played out exactly the way I had kind of projected. I think that comes with experience. And the
Yeah.
whole time, like people were panicking and like caught up in the drama of this thing. But I was like,
Yeah.
guys, we've all seen this movie. We know how it ends. And when it came to the deadline, it landed up being a sequel because the client canceled the presentation due to family emergency. So I'm like, why are we getting caught up in this movie and this drama when
Mm.
we know how it ends? And the client can just say, hey, cliffhanger sequel. And then it's like, why are we stressed out? It's just a bad
Next
90s
season
movie.
on
Enjoy
Devious
it.
Mate.
Okay.
Just say next season on Devious Maids.
Yes.
Will Coletta find the letter she mailed to Raoul?
Exactly.
Why not? It's like, yeah, dude. I mean, everything's fictional, right? Deadlines are fictional. We've had this discussion. Deadlines are fictional. We all jump and hand it to like clients, and then clients are just like, they can just like, yeah, the ball's always in their court, and we're just trying to like, I don't know where this metaphor could go.
Dribble.
We're just dribbling, bro. We're dribbling, we're dribbling, we're dribbling. We shoot, we miss, we shoot, we miss, we shoot to the basket, we miss.
The hoop
But the ball,
changes, bro.
huh?
They shift the hoop around the court.
Yeah, it's like a traveling hoop, and the court. It's a moving court. The ball's in their court, but the court moves. You just have to like follow. I don't know. I'm not good at sport. Obviously, that's why I'm in advertising.
Well, you see, so that's the exact point I'm trying to make is that, you know, while the ball is in your court, just dribble with it as best as you can, take a few shots, you know, and just get to the end of the half or the quarter or whatever analogy we're using here. And then there's going to be another game. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's no point in overextending your Achilles tendons or your hamstrings or whatever. Just dribble, play nice, cover your bases, and make it to the next game.
Yeah, or if you like tear a ligament or whatever, they'll put you on, they'll put you on the bench and they'll just get another player. They don't give a fuck, bro. They'll just be like,
They'll bench you.
what thing, right? Tell me if I'm doing this right. Isn't that a super sub?
Yeah, that's a substitute. But the thing is, if you're using that sports analogy, if you bench a player, you still get paid.
Oh.
Oh, that one hurts. But yeah, it's funny. We're talking about briefs now, but we're bringing out the sporting analogies for two guys who aren't big on sports.
You like, soccer and stuff. I'm trying to get better, but I don't give. The thing is, it's not that I don't give a fuck, right? This has nothing to do with anything we're saying, but so I grew up in a house with my granddad. My granddad was very into soccer and stuff. So I only gave a fuck about soccer because he was there. And once I moved out of that house and I wasn't around the person who cared about it, I stopped caring about it. And also, I don't have DSTV or any of those things. Shout out to DSTV. So then I just stopped because then you have to like go find a way to go watch the sport, and you have to be like really enthused about it and know who's on the league and who's at the top of things. And I think like even with like advertising, man, like you have to kind of like it's like a sport, and you have to stay current, and you have to like, okay, which agencies won all the awards now? What type of work are they doing? At some point, man.
That's actually such a great point, and it actually ties in. And I know we closed the topic of sport versus art, but again, that's accessibility. So you're saying your interests were lying elsewhere, where your uncle wanted to go. What did you say, your uncle?
Granddad.
Your granddad. Your granddad wanted to go and watch soccer and travel like literally to the stadiums and the fields, right?
No, I mean just on TV.
Oh, just
like
on TV. Yeah. But I mean, even that's more accessible. You can go to a stadium, you can watch. But I feel like, especially in Joburg, South Africa, maybe it's different in New York and London and the bigger cities. But if you open something like a comic book store that's kind of very niche, they got very specific kind of graphic novels and stuff, the shelf life of that particular shop, not long, like it needs a lot of support. It needs, and yeah, like, I mean, I don't know if you remember any of those kind of niche places that used to exist maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, we had Smallville comics in Alberton. I used to love it, but I never bought anything because the things were so expensive. Like a statue of Batman was like, 500 Rand up, and as like a student / junior in advertising, I couldn't afford that shit.
Yeah.
And then eventually I could get enough money to like buy that stuff. I had other things to worry about, like, my child.
Yeah, but the thing is, they're so expensive. It's because those guys need to survive as well. They need to sell like maybe 3 of those statues just to make it through the month. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like I mentioned, like New York, London, wherever else, you can literally open up a shop you can sell some coffee and you can make it through, even if people don't buy those statues, because they're getting foot traffic, they're selling a few coffees, or maybe they've
No,
got like a room where you can hire out a board game and play board games, and that's enough to kind of cover their bills, I think. I'm just
yeah.
assuming. But I feel like if we open one of those places here in Johannesburg, I feel like it's, you need to buy something or leave. And it doesn't feel like a place where you can just chill, take out your magic cards or whatever you're doing, or like swap comic books, you know.
I mean, you have to. I mean, you have to take South Africa, or into context. Like the people that here are like surviving, predominantly like the majority. Whereas I think if you look at places like New York or Europe or wherever you're talking about, these people have lots of expendable income. Like nobody's like the people have jobs there. Like South Africa, yeah, man. I mean, remember internet cafes? I used to love an internet cafe.
Yeah.
I mean, I never drank coffee, but you sit there and you play Doom or whatever the fuck it was when you were
Yeah.
like a high school student because you had the time and it was cheap. But
Yeah.
internet cafes still exist.
I think they do. They do. And they probably have like a copy machine and that kind of thing. Um, but so I think, do you think the key outtake is like the less kind of like thriving a country is, art will suffer more? Or
Yeah,
I know sports and art will suffer, but I think more so art, because we
yeah,
still have, like, we won the Rugby World Cup recently. You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, like, look, I mean, I think you and I both consider ourselves like creatives and we like art and stuff. But like, when it comes down to it, and we're like, times are tough. Like, we buy groceries and we buy, maybe clothes if we need to. But I don't know when last. I mean, I bought like an artwork, like literally an art. Let's see if I can move. So I bought that from like an artist friend, Ian Franks. Um, because I wanted to do something nice and like make the place look better, but also to support like an artist, like a guy that like I'm friends with and stuff. But yeah, I'm not buying art every other month. Like that's ridiculous. Like I'll buy a jersey because I
Yeah.
need to be warm, and I'll buy food. But like, yeah, I mean, art will be the last thing I would spend money on. And like art, I want to be surrounded by beautiful things, but beautiful things are expensive.
Yeah. And I mean, to that point, I think the shelf life of culture hubs in Johannesburg in particular are very short-lived. Like we can say, okay, Parkhurst is kind of like an arty suburb. Greenside moved, like Greenside was thriving for a while. Melville is still good, but they go in like waves. Sometimes it's Newtown, sometimes it's Yeovil, all these different places, but it kind of moves and it's got like shelf lives where I think in like overseas, like Camden Town is Camden Town, in London. It's just
Mm.
this little hub of like, expressive kind of whatever you want to call it. Like, but in New York, it'll be like Williamsburg or Brooklyn,
Yeah.
and it's like that for years and years. I just don't think it's as sustainable in Joburg because it kind of like maybe it's got to do with the socioeconomic factors, like crime or whatever. But you find it moves, because I remember like Yeovil back in the day was like a flourishing kind of culture hub. And
Yeah.
then they're trying to like gentrify Maboneng. I know we always speak about Maboneng, but then it feels like it's very forced, and then there's an Uber van shipping guys from Fourways to to Maboneng, and like, what's the point? You're supposed to kind of uplift that neighborhood, and then there's
Yeah.
like the authenticity kind of goes out the window. It feels like more novelty than authentic.
No, I hear you, man. I think, yeah, I think the socio-economic factors are a thing. Like, I mean, even like Maboneng, like I remember when Maboneng was on the, coming up and everyone's taking that photo on that road with the letters above him. And I went for battles there because I was still into like, rap battles and stuff at the time. But I remember there was like one stretch of Maboneng. You could go down and this road is safe, this road is safe, this road is safe. But as soon as you go beyond that, like just underneath the highway, bro, you're gambling. And as much as like, yeah, I also like the idea that like, these like really these areas were getting gentrified, and it was like art. I think Faith 47 did like a mural on one of the walls, and it was like, people want to take photos with like cool murals because it's good for the Instagram. Um, but yeah, it does have these peaks and troughs, and it is like almost like fashion. Like there's like Mabanang's hot for like 2 months, 3 months, and then people move on to the next thing. But that's art and that's fashion and that's advertising. Everything's like hot for a little bit, and then people move on. People keep doing these long drawn out radio ads where people like really get into minutia of like the thing, and then that style fades. People move on to the next thing, and people do more musical things. You know what I mean? Like art and fashion and things are fleeting.
Fleeting, yeah, and I think even more fleeting when you don't have a stable culture hub or a point where you can be like, we can just keep things going there, you know?
I mean, where's the place that's kind of like maybe but Parkhurst is only survived by like the Fourth Avenue restaurants. Do you know what I mean? Like that's
Jolly Roger.
Culture hub. Yeah, but I wouldn't say it's a culture hub. But I mean, like Rosebank also. I mean, do First Thursday still happen? I don't even know anymore. I'm so out of the loop.
Yeah, yeah. You see, everything seems like an initiative as opposed to someone did like an installation or a graffiti, and then that grew into these guys opened up a coffee shop. It doesn't feel like this organism that just grows like kind of naturally. It's kind of like, hey, we can make money here. Let's do First Thursdays. There's a gallery here, and it feels like it's more kind of created artificially as opposed to, I don't know, like it'll be interesting to research how, like Camden Town, started, flourishing there, but that's how I imagine it, that it's just this like cool organism where there was a few cool people and then it just started building from there,
Yeah, but I mean, things need to grow. With money. Money makes things grow, and like if people don't keep investing in those things, if they, yeah, man, people, put their money elsewhere, and like, when times are tough, like, again, the arts suffer, and people stay at home. I went to the movies the other day. Like, I love the movies and stuff. But there were like 6 people in a theater, and obviously because of the things that they are. But I think a lot of movie theaters are going to be closing going forward, and like theaters. I can't see how they could sustain a theater. Like I mean, the massive, massive, massive costs and overheads for those things. So the arts will suffer, man. That's the unfortunate thing, and people. Yeah, when it comes down to it, bro, like people need to survive, and You don't need art to survive.
Yeah.
Nice to look at, but you can do without it.
Sure, I kind of disagree there, bro.
Yeah?
We need art to survive, I think. Well, think about what art is actually, So like once you've done your work, once you've made your money, where do people go to? They go to movies, they go to music to, find that outlet. They read, even if you're playing a gem game that you've downloaded off the App Store, there's artwork that's in there. There's creative minds that created Candy Crush or whatever the hell that is, So maybe. But yeah, I mean, look at even if you go to Cape Town, which if you look at Cape Town, it's kind of this, people from around the world, they know what Cape Town is, they know what Table Mountain is, and there's lots of like little hotspots and hubs there, So I think there's a combination of like, cool, we're going to invest and make this area a lot cooler, a lot more arty, and there's a balance between, but it was already going that way in the beginning. I feel like Joburg, it's maybe a little bit more artificial, or not artificial but forced, and I think Cape Town kind of has that natural way about things, just because of virtue of the fact that of the location. It's just so beautiful. They've got lots of nice natural features. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's that. I think it's, but the people there. Let's be honest. Like Cape Town is like a different country. Cape Town is, it's got more like European influence, and like a lot of people there can afford to like travel and be patrons of the arts and stuff. And Joburg, like if people make money in Joburg, and like I've had this, I mean, I have like this conversation with my friends, and they'd rather go sit at the news cafe and like no disrespect to news cafes, but you know what I mean. Like
No
the
shout
guys
out
would
to
rather
News Cafe.
guys. When you see that guy who drove into news cafe, like literally drove into it. But they wanna. Some people would rather show off and like buy bottles, and this is a whole culture thing now we're getting into. But yeah, I don't give a fuck about going to like these galleries or art shows, or whatever, unless they're like rather just go drink with their friends and like pop bottles and have a good time and be seen to be
Hmm.
successful. Nobody can see you. Nobody knows when you're in a movie theater or you're in the opera, and like
Yeah.
unless you take photos of your tickets and post it on Instagram. Like, people want to be out there. People want to like spend their money and enjoy themselves. And I don't know, man. I usually don't think that's art related. I think it's just like,
Hmm.
unless you think like people in the working in the nightclubs are like artists or whatever. But those Cosmo. What do you call those people that mix drinks?
Mixologist.
Mixologists. Yeah, maybe those guys are like artists. But yeah, man, I don't know.
Speaking of popping bottles, are we going to be popping some bottles tonight to celebrate your birthday, which is like a month overdue, 2 months overdue? Yeah, dude, we haven't celebrated yet.
3 months. Where were you in February, bro?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, bro, we were in the midst of a global thing that caused people to become ill and stuff.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, I don't know about popping bottles, bro. It's the 14th of the month and I work in advertising. So we can pop a dumpy if you want.
All right, cool.
All right, man. I'll chat to you later then.
All right, man. Let me just hit pause here.